We will have to eventually at some point have this East Coast versus West Coast argument.
Yeah, but there really isn't an argument. East Coast is better.
We have Tim and Tom here. They are the Dirt Drive. That's right. It's a podcast about anything and everything outdoors. Tim and Tom, how you guys doing?
Good, man. How about yourself?
We are doing great. Gary is here as well, and we're doing a combo show. We got the Jeepcast guys, the Dirt Drive guys. I think we got about every possible angle covered on the outdoor life. Glad that you guys found us, and I think we first started talking at Hammers. You messaged me, and we were chatting about getting ready for the race and stuff. And you guys are, well, tell us a little bit about your podcast. You're a little bit newer to the scene. Yeah, under what, like 50 episodes or something?
Yeah, I think this is going to be, I have to look. I think this is going to be episode 44 or 45. So we're coming up on 1 year. We started it in, I think our first episode was May 30th. I think it was May 30th of last year.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on 53 episodes quickly. But we're figuring it as we go. We're enjoying it. Kind of a wild and random show, but how'd you guys get your start?
Oh God,
Gary, you tell the story.
Well, Gary kind of, he tricked me a little bit. So we were wheeling in Moab back, I don't know, in 16, I think. And he goes, we should record this stuff. Maybe we should do a podcast. So we just started recording. It was really crappy too. We used iPhones, and we were just recording stuff, each day, what we were doing. And then he was serious. Then he started bugging me like, we should actually do and we had no idea how to do one.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And our first shows were awful. And it was, well, you can tell him more, Gary, but you basically tricked me into doing this.
Tim, did you just vehemently agree that our first shows were terrible?
Oh no,
I heard you just say, "Oh yeah."
Ours. No, our first shows.
Terrible.
The first shows of anything are terrible.
Yeah, I think ours are on an SD card locked in a safe somewhere.
Yeah,
should be destroyed, but I think we're saving it for a rainy day.
Yeah, I got episode 00 saved on a cloud somewhere.
Let's hope it doesn't get hacked.
Hope it doesn't get hacked because it's ridiculous.
No, it's true. I slow rolled it. Area and just told him, let's just get a couple recordings, and then brought him into the house, and we started getting a little bit of equipment, and then a little more. And the thing that's tough, I mean, when you don't know better, just like a lot of us do with our Jeeps, you build it up in stages, right? Because you're like, I don't know what I want to do with it, and so you go and buy Lift version 1, and then you go and buy Lift version 2, and then you finally figure out where you want to go and you buy Lift version 3. And on our show, we're big proponents of, try to figure out where you're going before you buy any stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like go wheel with what you have, go talk to a bunch of buddies, really figure it out, and then just plot a course to where you want to go. And I did a pretty good job of doing that. I mean, my first build lasted about 10 years, right? I mean, like I had, a plan that I executed on, just a direct line, and I did pretty good on that, but we didn't do as well on the podcast. I mean, because you don't know how long you're going to do it. You don't know, like, you really want to get $1,000 in equipment right up front. You don't know you're going to last 3 weeks. So that part's tough. But so we started out. So some of the early recordings, not as good audio quality, but we knew from the beginning that audio quality was going to be a really big deal. Like we wanted it to be a good show. When we went around at the time, now there's just so many podcasts out there for the Jeep experience, for off-road experience, for dirt life stuff, like all of that. There's so many out there now. We started, I think there was like 3 or 4. Yeah. And so, analyzing and kind of in the space was a lot easier, right? Like you could just look at those that were out there and say, oh my gosh, like this is what these guys do. And I don't really like that. And this is what these guys do. And I think we could do better at that. And it was a lot easier to do the comparison. And now, there's a lot of other guys that are coming around, and I feel like it's probably harder to do that comparison just because there's so many shows. But so that's how we started. I mean, like, you guys tell us how did you guys start? And did you even bother doing any of this analysis, or were you like, hey, we just want to talk?
So we started. Tom owns the shop, DirtNerds Motors. And like I would just come by after work, there'd be customers in there, and Tom, Trevor, and I would just be shooting the shit, like having fun. And customers would be like, "You guys are hilarious. You should start a podcast." Well, we heard that for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Until we finally pulled the trigger and bought the equipment. And
well, even at that, like we tried to be very calculated, and we would make outlines for episodes, and we'd all sit around and come up with ideas before we even started recording. And then we just realized after, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 episodes of that, we didn't follow the outline at all.
No.
It was mostly just me rambling. Like, you know, we just get onto like crazy technical things. I'd ramble away, and we were like, this is a much more entertaining format.
Yeah.
So now we just throw out a topic and sit around in my basement and chat for an hour. And if it's crap, we still post it.
yeah, so one of my big inspirations for the format was kind of like Two Bears, One Cave with Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, is they just sit around and bullshit and have fun. And when we guests are on, they're not interviews, they're guests. Like you guys are obviously guests on the show. We're not interviewing, we're just hanging out, having a good time. That's my philosophy with it.
No, that's awesome. It's ours turned into that too. I think up front, you know, Gary and I brainstormed, you know, a list of topics, right? We're like, hey, you know, here's a bunch of things that we need to cover. And we quickly found that we just never went back to that list, right? Like we found that every week we had something to talk about that had happened to us that week, right? Like, you know, we were in the garage and we were changing out a steering box. We were out on the trail and you know, we broke a end link, right? I mean, like something always was happening every week, and we found that we never really went back to that list. Now, I don't know if we went back to it now, we might. We covered all those topics kind of organically, but we never really went back to it. Like, you know, we had a list of, I don't know, 50 or 70 items that we thought, okay, let's plan, but we never went back to that. It was just very much, you know, natural and organic. For us.
Yeah, we still have a list.
Yeah, we do like a general outline.
Yeah,
I said we have kind of what would you call it, Gary? We have an outline we do just to kind of have some continuity, but we just riff off it.
Yeah. Yeah, we still have a list of, I have a list of about 20, 30 things. But like, cause we still enjoy the crew shows of not having interviews, cause I feel like that's how the audience gets to know us as hosts, and like we retain a base. But the interviews is interviews or guests is how you grow your audience. So we're throwing those in now. We just had a good one, I guess it'd be a few weeks ago, with Gear Monkey Racing, the 4679 car. And that was a good show. We had a lot of technical difficulties, and we had technical difficulties this morning, but we got it figured out.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, sometimes, you know, like Gary said, we have a, you know, very rough outline of things that we want to cover, you know, in an episode. But it's very rough. Like we're not really reading anything. We're not reading stories. We didn't go and, you know, write a paragraph and you know, read it, because I think the audience can tell when it's rehearsed and read, and it just doesn't sound, you know, natural. But I mean, like sometimes we'll start off with like, okay, we're going to talk about, you know, this thing, and the notes are incredibly light, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we can cover this in 15 minutes. How are we going to stretch this to 45? And the funny thing about Gary and I is we're just able to just keep talking, and we chat about stuff, and we draw it out and make a story into it. And it's just a fun conversation. It sounds like a lot like what you guys do.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear more about this shop. I missed the shop, and let's give it a proper plug.
It's DirtNerds Motors, Sterling, Virginia. We work on everything Jeep, 4x4 trucks, doing everything from oil changes to custom fabrication. I like to look at us as like the humble hometown shop. You know, we're not here to necessarily take all of your money, and we like building things that you want and you're going to use. You know, we get people come in all the time that are like, oh, I'm just getting into off-roading. I just bought a Jeep. You know, what do I need to do to run 40-inch tires? And I'm like, have you been off-road yet? No. Well, go off-roading and then come back. Tell me what you want. And it's like, oh, I just want 35s. And it's like, you know, as a business owner, I'm like, oh man, I really should have sold them $50,000 worth of work. But at the same time, like, you know, it's just unnecessary. And then 6 months later, when their ball joints are blown out, then they're coming back and complaining. And it's, you know, it's our philosophy is build what you need, not what you want. unless you really, really, really want it.
Yeah.
And you've got the credit card limits to support it.
No, I'm with you. It sounds like you're going about it the right way, which is to understand what your customer wants and then get them on the good path. Because you're right, you could burn through one customer's wallet. Well, now they're never a customer again.
Right.
So do right by every customer is important, because word of mouth is important. Like let those people go and say, no, I had a great experience over at Dirt Nerds. And then you'll get other customers to come over there too.
Yeah.
What's your bread and butter over there? Like, is it aftermarket installs like bumpers and winches, or is it like? And I know you said you guys do all the way to fabrication, but I mean like most common thing that comes up there: lift kit installs, wheels and tires, blah blah blah.
Honestly, we have a really good spread. There's not like one thing that we do more than anything else. We've kind of become the local expert in classic Jeeps and carburetors. So we do a fair bit of the CJs and things like that. Like right now in the shop, I've got a 1990 Comanche for a wiper electrical diagnosis. Parked next to that is a 2023 Trailhawk Cherokee that's getting a rooftop tent and a roof rack. We have the frame from an 84 CJ7 with the tub pulled off of it. And in the parking lot's a 72 Commando, an 89 Wagoneer with an LS swap, a couple of JKs. Like we basically do everything.
When you say it like that, it sounds really legit.
It is legit.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. There are some.
Well, we don't have.
Where are you guys located?
We are actually separate from each other. We used to both be in the Seattle area. Gary is still there, but I've since moved to St. George, Utah, which is in southern Utah.
Okay.
Of some amazing wheeling at Sand Hollow.
Oh yeah.
State Park. There's a great mountain here with just world class rock crawling. I mean, it is really amazing. 5 hours away is Moab, Utah, which is a great destination for Jeep and off-roading as a whole. And we've been there a good number of times. But the thing is, you can't really go and I mean, there's people that do, but I mean, like the town of Moab is not a large town, right? Like you can't really live there and raise a family and not to say that people don't do that, people do it, but I mean, like it's just not a real city, right? Yeah. But St. George is like 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And then you got amazing wheeling, and the great thing about it, which is just so much better than the Seattle area that I was at for so long, is you can go wheeling and hardcore rock crawling is 15 minutes away, right? I mean, you can drive in 15 minutes. You can do a whole trail of 10 to 12 obstacles, and then you're back in town in time for lunch, right?
Yeah.
Leave in the morning, you're back in town for lunch. In the summer, you want to go night wheeling in the summer. It's 110 during the day, 90 degrees at 10 o'clock at night. But you'll leave at 8, and you can do it on the weeknight because you're back home. You do a trail and you're back home and in bed by midnight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So doing it's really cool. Tell us about the wheeling in your area.
Gary, there's one thing you can't do down there. You can't go snow wheeling like I did yesterday.
Oh, I hate snow wheeling.
Oh, yes, that is.
No snow wheeling for me.
You hate snow wheeling?
I love the sno. I hate snow wheeling.
Oh, I love snow wheeling. I enjoy it.
It could be the lack of top and heat.
So the wheeling by us, we're okay. Yeah, wheeling by us is pretty unique. So like I said, where we live is about 45 minutes west of DC. If you go an hour and a half west of DC, which is, I mean, a short drive really, there is some amazing rock trails. It's called the Cove Campground, is where we up primarily, and it's some rippers of rocks. We've broken everything. We've spent days and just getting buried in mud and then bouncing up rock faces or rock slabs. It's a bunch of fun. It's true East Coast wheeling, bouncing off of trees, rev limiters, rocks, all the good stuff.
Wet mud that turns to clay within an hour of it drying, and it's like cement clay. It's definitely challenging. Like I actually lived in Colorado, right on the Utah border, from Moab. So like I'm familiar with slick rock and all the red rock stuff that's grippy, and all your loose traction out that way is sand. Out here it's mud, and the mud goes with you. So even if you get out of that mud pit, that next rock you're on, everything's wet, your tires are caked. It's a mess. I think it's more fun. I love East Coast wheeling.
Oh yeah.
I will argue that one until the day I die. But we have the good variety, because like we also have GW Forest and Jefferson National Forest, which combined is like 2,000 miles of dirt fire roads and stuff. There's waterfalls, there's mountains, there's rocks, there's plains, there's mud. Like if you want it, you can find it in Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's the parks, the true parks are private lands.
Yeah.
But if you go to the national forests, it's all public. It's open all the time. It's great overlanding. There's not really good public rock crawling here.
There's really no public rock crawling.
There's no public rock crawling. But if you're into like overlanding, it's a great spot. Yeah. I think we've got a buddy that runs a guide service called Terra Overland out of Harrisonburg, Virginia-ish.
Yep.
And he's out every weekend. He never does the same trail twice in like a month. He can be out every weekend, all hours of the day, and he won't hit the same trail twice for a few months.
Well, that's pretty cool. We will have to eventually at some point have this East Coast versus West Coast argument.
Yeah, but there really isn't an argument. East Coast is better.
Yeah, I'll have to sit out because I've never done anything West Coast.
Well,
it's just different. We ran Roush, we ran AOA, we ran Burning Rock, we ran Uwari, we ran Windrock last year.
Well, I feel like where you're at, Gary,
it's just all good wheeling.
I feel like where you're at, Gary, in the Pacific Northwest, it's very much like East Coast.
Yeah.
It's got to be very similar. It's got to be wet. It's got to be
trees,
rocks the size of motorcycle helmets, and maybe some big slabs, and just kind of a lot of throttle.
Yeah, it's tight trees. It's muddy. It's roots that you slide off of, and you got to watch not crashing into trees.
Yep. It's just colder and wetter East Coast.
It's probably similar. The trees are a lot taller out here.
Yeah.
The thing that we have in the Northwest that we didn't find, on the East Coast when we were there was, in addition to the trails that have all this mud and trees and all this, the roads to get to them are all these shelf roads, right? Because all of our stuff is up in mountains.
Yeah.
And so there's shelf roads that are
Well, they're very steep mountains.
Yeah.
Well, like Colorado, you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, how far west have you come, Tom? Tell us about some of your West Coast wheeling.
So mostly I lived about an hour west of Grand Junction, Colorado. So like for me, I did a lot more overlanding out there. I was kind of pre my rock crawling days. So I had like a Nissan Frontier that I would take out camping. And that would also tow my autocross car to the track on the weekends, kind of thing. So there was where I lived, the town was called Gateway, Colorado. There's actually basically a dirt road that connects Gateway, Colorado to Moab. So it was nothing to get up in the morning, drive this trail into Moab, have lunch, hang out, talk to people, and then drive home. And that was the majority of it. That and like the Uncompadre Plateau, Unaweep Canyon area. Again, it's just more forest, wilderness roads, things like that. It was I lived in an apartment, so I couldn't quite build a rock crawler at the time.
Gotcha. All right. So what I'm hearing in this East Coast versus West Coast argument is that only one of these podcasts has done both West and East Coast. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing. Yes.
Whoa. Let's not get carried away. I'm familiar with it. Yes, I will give you the West Coast. The West Coast stuff has bigger obstacles. There are definitely bigger rocks, steeper mountains. I'll give you all of that. But the fact that like a Milestar Patagonia is a good tire in Utah is why it's not as good of wheeling as it is on the East Coast. They're not good tires. I hope you're not sponsored by Milestar.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, Milestar did amazing at King of the Hammers. I mean,
last
year Milestar won with no flats. I raced in Milestars this year, no flats, bombing through the desert and hitting Johnson Valley rocks, which I would guess you're probably not familiar with the rock crawling in Johnson Valley.
Not yet.
So
we are going next year though.
Yeah.
All right, are you committed to that? Because I want you guys hanging out with us if you're committed to that.
Yeah, so we officially got invited by Gear Monkey Racing to be a part of their race team next year.
Yeah.
So we'll be hanging out with them.
Perfect.
But I mean, as many people as we could find, we got Wheeling Wine and Whiskey invited us to come hang out at their camp next year and hang out with them. And we are officially going next year.
They were there.
Yeah, I've already scratched
all right,
the SEMA show off the list for travel to make it a point to be at King of Hammers next year.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to be so excited about that. I mean, SEMA is incredible, but I mean, there's nothing like a whole 100,000 plus city being created out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah,
it's like burning rock for off road.
Oh, it was enormous this year. What did Dave Cole, I think, said about 150?
Jesus.
Yeah, 140 to 150,000 people. So
wild.
Yeah,
it was a monster this year. It was like noticeably bigger. Like last year was huge, but this year it was like, oh my God! Like there was, they were like past the gate into where it was controlled, and they had like these enormous camps out closer to the main road, and it was like, holy cow, this is huge.
Yeah, so next year we plan on driving.
It's quite the spectacle.
Next year we plan on driving across the country with 2 trucks and 2 trailers.
Yeah.
We both have Duramax diesels. We both have 2003 Duramax diesels, LB7s. I'm going to bring a 5th wheel camper behind my truck, and Tom's going to bring hopefully a 2-car trailer with 2 Jeeps on it.
Just got to
find his truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good sharing of the load. So one of you can bring the rigs and the other can bring the accommodations.
Yep.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Do you guys stay in Hammertown when you're there, or do you camp outside of Hammertown?
Well, the first 3 years that we went, it was spectators, so we were camping outside of Hammertown. But the last 2 years we've been racing, and so we stayed in the pits.
Okay.
Inside Hammertown itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it as dusty
So
as everybody?
race team, you guys will.
Go ahead.
Oh, probably more.
Oh, okay.
It's a whole new level of dust.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that part of it. No.
Always wondered.
In fact, this year it was so unbelievably dusty, and we had this huge windstorm.
Oh.
I had to wear goggles.
damn.
To walk from our
Fun.
pit over into main
All right.
Hammertown. It was awful, and then it cleared, but it also destroyed one of our. We had an easy up at our pit, and it didn't survive.
Oh, nice.
So what do you guys race?
We got a little.
You guys are in a 45.
So we race my Jeep. It is that I built my trail Jeep as a 4500. It's I say this openly and honestly, it's the dumbest way to build a race car. If your limitation is only being able to put one rig in your garage, and you really want to race, well then I guess your path is to build your trail Jeep into a race car. But if you have any other, if you have room for 2, if you have your trail Jeep and you want to race, build a separate race car than your trail Jeep. You can
Just go get a used 4400 car and rebuild it for 48. That's the easier way to go.
That's the easier and cheaper way to go. Still have a trail Jeep too. Yeah, 4800 is just a beast of a class. I mean, like you can really build a very, very capable rig and meet all the qualifications of 4800. And very, very, I don't know about easily, but I mean, like it's very doable to finish in a 4800 car, where 4500 is very challenging, especially when you're as big and fat as a JKU, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like I come in at almost 6,000 pounds, and that's way heavy for 37. Or, in a 4800 car, you can be 3,800 pounds, under 4,000 pounds, and still run the same 37-inch tires.
Yeah.
It's just a way smarter way of doing it. 4,500 class is the toughest class, and especially this year, they gave 4,600, which is stock, which is what they call a stock class. They're limited.
Stock is relative too. They can change their axles. They can
up things, but they gave them a bunch of the bypasses.
Yeah.
And 4800 did not 4500 did not have
45 and 4800 had to run all the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 46 guys got like all these bypasses this year. It's like, oh man, that's not really very fair. But
So-
I get they're on 35s too, so
Yeah.
I get it.
Did you build your trail rig into a race car, or did you take a race car and turn it into a trail rig?
No, my race car is my trail rig. I bought it brand new. It's a 2010 JKU.
Okay.
The first iteration of, which lasted for 10 years was, 37, I ran 37-inch tires. Like I knew from the very beginning I wanted to be on 37s, and I built it up to 37s and, changed the front axle when the stock front axle broke. I ran the rear stock axle for the whole duration. I never broke the rear, and I beat the heck out of it, man. I mean, like I really wheeled that thing hard. Added actually, I know I didn't add a hydro assist until I got the 40s and the LS3. But
shit.
did steering, did everything that you could do on a 37 and built it up like crazy. I mean, it was a great rig on 37s. It did everything I wanted to do. And then I was like, well, I want more. Actually, it was a trip to Colorado that finally kicked me over the edge of needing. I say need, right? You talked about wants and needs. This now became a need to get an LS engine in my JKU, because we're going to Colorado. We're going up this long up I-70, Gary.
Yeah. Out of from Green River over to Grand Junction,
Yeah, going up Grand Junction, and it's 105 degrees. It's if I'm running my AC, I can't get. I'm starting to overheat if I'm running the AC. So I'm windows down. Actually, there were no windows. It was windows unzipped.
Nice.
and then it was just overheating, and so I couldn't run the AC. I'm burning up, and then even with that, I still couldn't keep up with them.
you had to run the heater.
I had to run the heater to keep
And it was 105.
Damn.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Gary's in his truck. He's got a Cummins Ram, and he's in his truck pulling his Jeep on a trailer, and he's just pulling away from me going up I-70.
And his family's in with my family and air conditioning. We're like, man, it's not bad out.
Yeah.
That's not bad. They're like, "Where's Gary?"
Sweating to death.
And then our other buddy Sean was in a Jeep with I think it's a 2016 with a Pentastar. Maybe it's a 2014. I don't remember the year, but he's at the Pentastar. So, he's windows up, air conditioning, still cranking up this hill. And I just couldn't keep up. We finally pull into Grand Junction. And the first thing I think I said when I get out, I said, I'm getting an LS3, and it was just ridiculous.
But once he got an LS3, then that gave him more ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah. It was, so yeah, that's, go ahead.
the tow rig life is, we both have our tow rigs because our Jeeps are trail Jeeps only, and it's the best life to live.
Oh yeah.
When someone asks us about it, I'm like, yes, yeah, buy a truck, do it. Buy a truck and trailer. It makes your trail time so much more enjoyable because you can be in your beat up truck rig, whatever it is, and then park it on the trailer, turn your AC on, and your diesel's doing 75 miles an hour up the highway. No shakes, no rumbles, no nothing.
Yep.
It's my favorite part.
Yep.
I love my truck.
Right. No, I'm with you. It is really cool, but there is something cool to be said. Because like we said, our rigs are pretty well built up, and so we go and we hit hard trails, do big rock crawling, and then jump on the freeway and go 80 miles an hour to get home. And it's still like a Cadillac down the freeway. So,
Yeah.
So we had
they're extreme.
we had a guy on, Robert Keller, who was on Ultimate Adventure 3 times,
Something like that.
and he described his builds for Ultimate Adventures as built like an anvil. So build the shit out of it, underpower it a little bit, and it'll never break, and you'll be good to go the whole time. Which is
So one thing about Gary, I'm not sure if there was any other street licensed rig that ran in 4500 class.
okay. So
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I mean, like mine is legal to drive on the street.
He's actually plated. Yeah, he drives around on the street with this crazy.
yeah, we found out that our friend Daniel Applegate, who races the Gear Monkey car, his car is actually, his 4600 car is registered and insured.
Yeah. No
And
windshield.
it's his spare vehicle. which is
Yeah,
pretty
46,
awesome.
So you can, yeah, there are several 46s that are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, it's not a stretch at all to believe that a 4600 car would be street legal. I mean, there's not. It's much closer to a stock class and a trail rig than a 4500 car. Especially nowadays, right? I mean, like I talked to Dave Cole last year, and we were talking about 4500 class, and I told him my path to building my Jeep, and he said, yes, you're exactly the type of Jeep that I wanted to be running 4500. And he was telling me he's not happy how 4500 has evolved. I think he said devolved, because people just push the limits of the rules, and he's part of the issue because he let it happen. When people fudge the rules and kind of made everything as crazy as it is. And so now 4500 is incredibly competitive, right? I mean, it is as legitimate of a race car as a 4400 car, with limited budget. So it's fun, it's cool. Tell us more about your rigs, guys.
You go first.
Oh, so I've got a $700 XJ. I picked it up behind a shed or behind a barn, just north of where we're at in farm country, Loudoun County, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And it went through like you were saying, like with the podcast, with everything else, you start out in kind of a shitty spot, you get what you can get, and you build up from there. So I started with a 3-inch rough country lift, and I beat the piss out of it. And then we put lockers in the front and rear that are definitely set up wrong, because we did that way before we started the shop.
They're still ticking.
They're still ticking, but they're definitely set up wrong.
Literally the first gear job we ever did.
And then I was enjoying that so much, I ended up going cab fab long arms. And now we're long arm locked on 33s in my XJ. It's a great rig. It's for the small, I guess, the blue black trails that we have out here. Even on a 33, it's a point and shoot rig. I've never had any issues with it. It's a good little vehicle.
Yeah, it definitely works well for what it is.
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. Tom's rig, on the other hand.
How many spare XJs do you have?
I've got no spare XJs. How many XJs have we bought?
We've been through a lot of XJs.
I think we've bought 6 XJs and flipped them. Not like rolled them over.
Yeah,
but flipped them for a profit.
Buy them and sell them. That was when you could buy XJs for $500.
Right.
The cheapest XJ we ever bought was a 97 two-door. We got it for $200. It ran and drove.
Have you had to do any unibody beefing up on yours?
Yeah, I've done front and rear stiffeners. Yeah. I've got all the steering stiffeners.
I did.
Tom did it. I don't weld. So Tom did my stiffeners. And then the cab fab long arms are pretty beefy. That had a lot of strength too. Gas tank skids. The only thing I don't have is the front stiffeners. But that'll come eventually. I think.
Yeah. I'm on my third rig.
You're still running a...
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you're still on a 30 for the front?
Yep, it's a high pinion 30. I don't know how. It's still alive.
It's trussed.
It's trussed and gusseted, with used 410 gears out of I think it was a 94 XJ. So the 94 XJs that were the 4 cylinders and the standards had 410 gears. Yeah. So I found a set that went right into my Jeep. I paid like $150 for a set of gears, and it's held up. I don't know how I haven't broken it. It's got I broke axle shafts. I broke the axle shafts on a pretty big trail. So now I've got carbon chromollies, and I have had no issues with it. I don't know what the magic is.
And you have a lock. What kind of locker?
It's the cheapest one you can buy. It's the Aussie.
What kind of locker?
Aussie locker, automatic locker. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it works. Wow. It doesn't get driven on the street.
Point go.
What was that?
Those things. You like. I'm with you on point and go, right? Because those things. They're so light, and you can do a good amount of upgrades to it for not very expensive. And the thing is, you can feel a lot more confident getting momentum, going up and over obstacles.
Yeah.
And momentum just helps a lot. And when you're a lighter vehicle, getting that momentum doesn't put as much strain on your vehicle as, a big giant 6,000 pound JK, right? And you're going to break things a lot easier on a heavier rig.
Yep.
So therefore, you got to, if you don't want to break things, you got to build it up even more, and building it up even more just is way more expensive, right? I mean, so if you're short on funds and want to have a great rig, to go do some awesome off roading, and next year, great platform to do that on.
So the other benefit that I have is, when I bought my Jeep, it had almost 300,000 miles on it. I've done nothing to the engine, so it's super underpowered, which still gets me up the trails.
But it keeps you out of trouble.
It keeps me out of trouble. It keeps me from braking. So yeah, the only thing I've ever done to it is plugs and wires.
Yeah.
That's it. To keep that motor going.
And that's it. Is that the inline 4?
The inline 6.
Yeah.
I mean the inline 6. Yeah, the 4 O's.
The 4 liter. Yeah. Yep, and it's still got the stock AW4 with 300,000 miles on it, and the NP231?
231, yeah.
231 with the slip yoke eliminator and Adams Driveshafts. Shout out to Adams Driveshafts.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Tom, you started telling us got cut off.
Oh yeah, you're good. I'm a serial vehicle hoarder. We'll say
He likes to kill Jeeps too.
yeah, and I do tend to break things. So when I started hanging out with these guys and we started getting into the wheeling harder, and I was getting back into it, I found an old Cherokee Chief that was already lifted, that I bought for like $1,000. Thing was just a rusty pile, and beat the ever living crap out of that. And then once that died, I built what we called Scrap Heap, the Scrap Jeep, which was a 97 Grand Cherokee that we bought for $200. And I literally built the entire Jeep with spare parts that we had taken off of customer cars. I had like JK stock springs as lift springs, TJ lower control arms. We had chunks of like a Jeep Renegade bumper to build a winch mount. Like just literally anything that was in the scrap metal pile got welded onto this Jeep. And that thing lasted for what, 2 or 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
Bone stock, no lockers, 33s on wheel spacers and stock wheels. And that was the best $1,500 of fun I've ever had.
I think you made money on it when you scrapped it, didn't you?
Pretty much, yeah. I bought the Jeep for $200 and I scrapped it for $400. Outside of the tire purchase, there was nothing new that I bought for that Jeep. And I ended up breaking the stock lower control arms on an obstacle.
I thought it was the uppers.
Sorry, it was the uppers. The stock upper control arms on the front axle on an obstacle, and I was trying to limp it back to camp. And the pinion yoke finally decided to give it up. The front drive shaft dropped while I was driving on the access road, and it pogo sticked the Jeep and sent the front drive shaft through the transfer case. And I was like, and this is going to get pushed on the trailer and straight to the junkyard. And now I have a YJ that I inherited from a friend of ours that's V8 swapped. It's got the 5.2 Magnum out of the Grand Cherokee in it. And then it's stretched front and rear. So I think it's like 108-inch wheelbase. Comp cut. It's a work in progress. We've only had it out twice.
Broken both times.
Yeah, no. The first time it didn't break. It overheated.
No, it broke.
What broke?
Your rear drive shaft.
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah. I did break the rear drive shaft, which Adams rebuilt under warranty. Shout out to Adams again. They're like our best friends these days. I totally forgot about that. And then I narrowly avoided blowing the motor up on our last trip. The heads are off of it in my garage right now, so the motor's getting refreshed.
What happened? We never gave our audience an update about what happened to that motor.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to do an episode on that. I don't know where it came from, but it looks like the remnants of a grade 8 nut somehow made its way down through the intake and ended up in cylinder number 8, left a couple dents in the top of the piston, and that is the only damage. There's no cracks. The head is perfectly fine. It's mind-blowing.
And it just stopped running. Like we just did a rock trail, and then I was guiding, and all of a sudden everyone stopped. And the story from Tom and Trevor is he went wide open throttle, and then it just like died.
It just stalled. And I was like, oh shit, did I flood it? Like we thought maybe I floated a valve and bent a valve, and We couldn't figure it out. I ended up having to tear the whole motor down just to find what's left of a smushed what I believe is a quarter 20 nut. No idea where it came from. That's the crazier part. It's probably been sitting in the motor for 2 years. Yeah. But that'll be a fun one. That's
incredible. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean it's reasonable that it could have been just sitting there for a long time because its weight would just let it sit at the bottom even with fuel and air mixture going into the cylinders a bunch and until one of two things, right? An excessive amount of fuel and air combusting, or just the jostling of the Jeep, right? I mean, like you could hit a big bump, and that could be enough to, loosen that nut, pop that nut up from the bottom and let it fly down somewhere until it got into a more dangerous, precarious position.
My working theory right now is it was just kind of sitting on the back of the valve, and because I had been pretty much babying the Jeep the first couple times out, the valves hadn't fully opened. And that first time, it was warmed up. It wasn't overheating. It was a good flat road. I was like, yeah, let's see how much power it actually makes. And that first time I just matted it. It finally opened up enough and the nut dropped right into the cylinder. That's my working theory because it's the only thing that makes sense.
Gary T, what do you drive? What's your trail rig?
I got a 2010 JKU.
Okay, so you guys are both in 2010
It's a
JKUs?
2010 JKU. Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we got started wheeling together. I bought one, and 1 week later, H bought one.
Okay.
And I didn't know that, but my daughter was driving mine, and H thought that she was in his, and he was upset for a minute. Then he looked in his garage, and his was in there. And the first thing he asked me is, what are you going to, what's her first mod? And I'm like, I don't know. I have a Rubicon. I don't need to mod it. Well, obviously things changed over time.
That'll happen.
Mine is, I'm on 40s. I've got these brand new Mickey Thompson XS Pro, Baja XS Pro tires that haven't seen rock yet. On snow, you got to really watch it. They work really well until they dig really fast. So if you start to get any wheel spin, you got to stop because you high center in about a half a second. It seems.
Yeah.
And it's on coilovers. I've had it on coilovers for a long time. It sits at about 6.5 inches. I don't know. The King guys got it all tuned up for me a little over a year ago, so I just leave it where they set it. They revalved it, everything for me. It's not like H's. His is like full on race. Mine, I can do about 40 or 50 out in the desert before my teeth will rattle out.
Okay.
But anyway, it's still got a 3.8 in it. It's pretty built up. It's I'm in the bead locks, the whole 9 yards. I have dreams of an LS someday and and maybe a 4-speed Atlas. But I just got the 4-to-1 Ruby. I don't need an LS. I just want an LS. You know why? Because they sound really cool.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
That little piece of crap 3.8 sounds like crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 12, 13 years of building the snot out of it. I haven't broke anything in a while. Fortunate.
So how'd you guys get your start in off-roading?
Last year,
where do you guys start when it comes to off-roading?
Well, so way back in the day, I lived in Utah a long time ago, and I had a Toyota truck, 4-wheel drive, and I didn't really do what you think of as like the kind of off-roading we do nowadays, but I did overlanding like stuff. I did a lot of river running. They do have really good clay out there in Moab, by the way, when it rains.
And by the way, this is as far back, like he says it's Utah, but it was before it was the state of Utah and really before the Grand Canyon even formed.
There you go.
No, anyway, so, I've been had 4-wheelers for a really long time. But I would say real off-roading, H is the one that, hey, we've got these new Jeeps. Let's go see what they can do. And, then we would get stuck and guys that were in built rigs would make it. And we're like, hey, man, we probably need like a lift. And, you know how the story goes.
Yeah.
You just start building them up. So back in 2010, we started. And by 2011, we were going to Moab, or 2012. And, ledges got bigger and Jeeps had to get bigger so they could go over bigger obstacles and eventually reached 40 inches. And I was on 42s for a while, and I didn't like those. It might have been the tire. The Pit Bull I didn't like very well. So I went back down to 40s. But I'm pretty anxious to see what these Thompsons do on the rock. I think they're going to be monsters on the rock. They just have lugs that are like,
Oh yeah,
they look like tractor tires.
Oh
Basically.
yeah.
By the way, Gary, you thought the pit bulls made noise and like remember like the lugs when you're going slow?
Right.
You should see what these things are like when you're going slow on the road.
Oh, really? Rock back and forth.
Oh, they're once you get them and they're bias ply, so it takes a little while to get the flat spot out. But then they do okay when you're zooming along. But man, when you're going slow and when you stop, I mean, you're just like, wow, these are.
it's like
aggressive.
It's like a boat where you have to get up on the plane and get the tires spinning fast enough that they don't fall into their own holes.
What about you, Gary H? Where did you?
I was so bummed because like so I
Go ahead, finish, Gary.
Oh, I was gonna say, so I ordered these crazy things like a year ago, February, thinking that I would have them in time for our big trip across America. Gary and I did a 60-day trip across America last year.
Oh, nice.
30 days off road. We ran Roush. We did the Bantam experience. We did AOA. Anyway, I'm like, I need some new tires, right? Because my Coopers were kind of wearing out a little bit, and but I didn't get them in time, and so I was kind of bummed because I don't have an Ultra 4 race car, so I needed to improve my tires so I could stay up with H, but that didn't work out for me. So anyway.
One last point on the Wheel in America trip. Finally, we are going to, by the time your listeners listen to this, and same with our listeners, episode 1 of that whole trip will be out. You can find it on YouTube and on Rumble. So go follow the Jeepcast and make sure that you check out our video series of Wheel in America.
There's 8 of them. It'll be eight episodes. Number 4 is a special episode. It's we're I think the only people who've been allowed to film in the Jeep factory and since.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's all approved by Jeep and everyone can watch. Like they narrate it for us. Basically, we're like right next to people on the assembly line filming. It's super cool.
It was the most amazing experience. I mean, like they literally let us go not only down alongside of the assembly line, but we were on the assembly line. It was like doing Frogger. Like they wanted to keep showing us stuff, and like we're jumping in between vehicles that are on the assembly line to get to the other side and then back again. We're stepping in between the worker and the car that they're working on as we're walking up and down the assembly line. I mean, the only way a person can be closer to a vehicle on the assembly line is if they somehow jumped into a vehicle that was being built.
That's cool.
That's the only way to get closer. It was an incredible experience that Jeep let us do this, and we got the video footage to prove it, and it'll be out in about it's episode
April 2nd. It'll drop. We're going to drop once a week. So it's our tour all the way across America and back, 10,300 miles, towing a double Jeeps.
Nice.
It's pretty wild. And we did the whole Bantam thing too. They've been inviting us for years, and so we got all kinds of exclusive stuff there as well.
Bantam was awesome too. Anyway, so back to our starts and wheeling. For me, I don't have as rich of an experience of a history as Gary does. I started in about 2006. Got the bug and the itch to try to get off road a little bit and try to get the family outdoors a little bit. And so I thought, I need to get a big truck, to get the whole family, out camping and doing stuff like this. And so I bought a Nissan Titan, and put a 6-inch lift on it with 35s, and and it was my daily driver, so I'm like driving it into the parking lot at work. I always had to find the place where there was extra tall entries into the garage or extra tall parking areas, and that was the only place that I could park this big massive truck. But it was fun. It was a great start, for wheeling. But I quickly found in the Northwest how limited it was in the areas that I could go. I mean, there were so many trail areas that were just way too narrow for a big truck like a Titan. There were some areas that I could go to, but like all of the really cool stuff was just very quickly off limits for the Titan. And so in 2010, and when I bought the Jeep with the truck in 2006, I'm like, oh, it's a truck. I'm never going to sell this thing. It's awesome. And, put a little bit of money in building it up. But then in 2007, the JKU came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that. There was a 4-door Jeep. And it's a lot narrower. And so I waited a little bit on it, and use the Titan a bit, and then said, you know what, I got to move over to this JK, because it's so capable, and I'm going to be able to get to all these trails that I just don't have access to on the Titan. And it was the best thing. I mean, Gary and I didn't plan it. We didn't know the other was buying a Jeep, and we were friends from our daughters playing soccer, so we knew of each other. And like Gary said, one day his daughter is driving Gary's Jeep over to my house to visit with my daughter. And I got upset. I'm like, Bridget, why are you in my Jeep? And she very sheepishly was like, it's my dad's Jeep. And I didn't believe her. I'm like, I'm going to go look in the garage just to make sure. And sure enough, my Jeep was in the garage. and then I'm like, your dad bought a Jeep. And I was all excited. And then I gave Gary the same disease of upgrading our Jeeps.
So did you guys accidentally buy the same color?
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Black is a pretty popular color in JKs. We quickly found out that black was the most popular color for JKs, and granite is now the most popular color in JLs. But that's what was at the lot. We both went to the same lot. We got almost identical Jeeps. They were only slightly different. Like mine came with the hard top and soft top package. Gary's didn't, so he bought my soft top off me because I didn't want the stock soft top anyway. I wanted the fast back truck top.
Yep.
And Gary had a nav system in his that I didn't have. I had the more basic, stereo. So they were very, very similar, both Rubicons, but just a few differences here and there.
That's funny. Yeah, I got my oh shit, I just punched my mic. My bad. We're learning. I got my start when I was, I guess, my whole life up until I sold it because I didn't know what I was doing. My dad was the first owner of a CJ7. He bought an 83. So I grew up around Jeeps. When I was 8 years old, me and my dad rebuilt it. And then we started wheeling it a little bit, like fire roads, power lines, all that stuff. So when I came of age and I was able to buy my own vehicle, I'm like, cool. So I've got a Jeep. I'm going to buy a Silverado, but I never wheeled the Jeep. We actually, a few years, I think it was a year after I got my truck, I blew up the transmission in the Jeep for the third time, and I couldn't afford to have it repaired.
Oh my God.
So we sold it to a shop for work on another car that we have. And then I lifted my truck. I had an 04 Silverado. I lifted that. And then I took it to a car show, and I met our friend Wally, who told me about the Cove Campground and Big Dogs Off-Road. And then I took my truck out there, and I started beating the piss out of a full-size rig, bouncing it off of trees, rev limiters with a 5.3 LS. It was a great time. But I
some good pictures of that.
Yeah, there's some really good pictures of that. But then I ended up breaking it every time we were out, like tie rods, CV axles, body was all dented up. So that's when I got the XJ. And that was about 2018. So my wheeling experience has really been my whole life, but really going off road is about 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
How about you, Tom?
Pretty much similar. I actually grew up in New Jersey where there was no off-roading. But a friend of mine in high school had an XJ, and he put cool underglow green lights, and I was like, I like Jeeps, and ended up with an XJ myself. I had a 98 was my first car, 5-speed, and I was working at a gas station, working night shift, and the owners of the gas station let me use the shop when I was working at night, and I basically lifted it one corner at a time. I was a Votech kid in high school, so I barely knew what I was doing, and slowly putting this XJ together. And I was the kid in school with the lifted Jeep, and we'd find whatever dirt road or mud hole, whether it was legal or not, at 17. Making dumb decisions, and ended up kind of getting more into cars and sports cars. I have a unhealthy BMW obsession. Which I had more friends in cars than I did in off-roading, so I fell more into the car stuff. and then lived in Colorado, got back into off-roading, but again, had more car friends than off-road friends. And when I moved back to the East Coast, moved to Virginia, started hanging out with these guys, I was like, ooh, off-road people. And we've slowly ruined our lives together. So
Yeah, so we actually met
through our fire department.
Through the fire department. And I was talking with my other buddy before I even knew Tom. I was talking to him about his JK and building. But I have my
I had
my Cherokee.
No, you still had the truck.
Still had the truck?
I had my Grand Cherokee. I had my WK as my daily.
That's right. Yeah, I was talking to my other buddy Matt, and Tom overheard. He just jumped in the conversation, and next thing we know, we're building Jeeps in his garage after work.
Yep. Yeah, and then built.
Heck
built his Jeep. Built a couple other friends' Jeeps. Met people at off-road events that were like, oh, you put their lift on? Can you put my lift on? And I started leaving my day job early to come home and work on friend of friends' Jeeps and random people's Jeeps, and people started paying me. And my wife looked at me and goes, we have 14 cars in the driveway, right? And I was like, did you count the 3 that are stuffed in the garage? She gave me that look, and I was like, maybe it's time I consider this seriously. And the shop's been open 3 years now, and we're basically booked for 4 to 6 weeks at any given time in the year. So it's
and good for you.
Yeah. It's definitely been an interesting evolution. Like, because I had like probably 4 or 5 different cars at the time that I started getting into off-roading. And then it was like, oh, well, if I sell this car, then I can buy a Jeep. All right, well, I need tires. All right, I'm going to sell this car. And then like next thing I knew, I had no cars and I had one Jeep that barely ran. And I was like, I'm doing this wrong. So then I started kind of taking the off-roading thing a lot more seriously, and it's definitely cheaper than like sports cars and racing. Anytime that's a German vehicle, there's definitely a big brand tax on those parts. So it's I don't know.
It's spiraled.
Yeah, it's definitely spiraled because now I've got a diesel truck. I have 2 trailers in the driveway. I've got my Jeep in the garage. It's bad. There's parts everywhere. I get yelled at. But the nice thing is I get to ship all my parts to the shop.
Well, very cool. What?
So the wife.
Oh, that is cool. What do you guys got coming? I know you said hammers next year, but what you guys got any trips or events planned for the rest of this year?
As of right now, I think we got a few trips planned. We help out with there's a group that goes to the Cove a lot called Big Dogs Off Road. We help them a lot as trail guides and everything. So usually every event we're out there guiding. Other than that, we've got a trip planned in June with the Pennsylvania Jeep group. And we have a trip planned. We have a trip planned tentatively in October at Good Evening Ranch.
Yeah.
So we're figuring it out. It's taking it easy. He's like we said, our buddy Trevor, who's usually on, just had a kid.
Yep.
Tom's due in July. I'm recently married, so I'm trying to keep my wife happy.
Yep.
It's just it's figuring out young life and figuring out life as a young adult and trying to manage this Jeep hobby, podcast hobby is it's a juggle all the time. So we don't really know when the next trip is, but we get texts from our friends once every few weeks saying, "Hey, you want to go Jeeping?" So next trip could be next weekend. We've got no idea really.
If I can put my motor together, it might be in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep. How about you guys? What do you guys got coming up?
Well, for us, we have a Rubicon and Fordyce trip in the summer.
It's not fair.
Which is the Rubicon is it's beautiful land out there. I mean, the wheeling, I would probably consider it, just moderate wheeling. There's a couple of obstacles still that are, pretty juicy, like Soup Bowl and Old Sluice. But really the draw for the Rubicon is just the spectacular, mountain-esque landscape, the beautiful views, the lakes, especially in the summer, you just jump in this largely crystal clear water. It's just amazing. And we're very lucky to have some friends that have access to private land, where we can get to a private campground that most people can't get to.
Yeah.
And it is my favorite and only place I will ever camp again on the Rubicon, because it's just so spectacular, far better than the other places, but to camp. And then Fordyce, is incredible. Is just incredible wheeling, right? I mean, like it's fairly beautiful, landscape and views there as well. But there's a lot more obstacles and bigger obstacles. There's a big playground. What do they call that playground area over there, Gary? It's at the Constitution exit or something like that, right?
It's by committee.
Oh, committee.
Yeah, it's about a mile. So Fordyce is like 12 miles long. The last 2 miles are like one obstacle, basically. It's just continuous. But just before that, it's the squeeze is there, and the playground is at the squeeze.
Yeah. So there's, and then they call all their big obstacles winch hills, right? Because they not Winchell's the donut house, but winch hills.
Yeah.
Because they expect you to have to winch it up them, and a lot of times you do. I mean, the landscape is changing there. Bigger rigs are getting in there and moving rocks around. I mean, last time we went, it was almost as much of an obstacle just to get to the obstacle. It had turned into a massive boulder pile, and it was very difficult to even just get to the obstacle itself. So water and erosion change the trail a little bit, makes things harder. Vehicles getting in there and bouncing off rocks moves them around. So it's different every time we go, but it's just beautiful. So that's our summer trip, and then we have a fall trip to Moab again. Gary, why don't you talk about that one?
Yeah, so Moab, I haven't been to Moab for a while because, I don't know, we did all these other things. We're going to do, it's part of it's my wife. We've done like everything in the Canyonlands Park except the White Rim Trail. Well, not everything, but a lot of stuff in there. So we're just going to do the White Rim Trail on kind of an easy overland thing. And then I'm not sure, we're going to run several days of, Moab trails. So it's kind of a combination of some scenic overnight camping, and then we'll get a place to stay in Moab and go out and, I don't know, abuse our Jeeps. I'm not sure what trail.
Yeah.
So probably, we'll probably do the quintuplet? Gary?
Yeah. I mean, you guys have probably heard of Poison Spider and Gold Bar Rim and where the Golden Crack is and what we like to do though is take those three and add on Where Eagles Dare and Rusty Nail. And so now you piece together, five trails all in one epic day. And I'll tell you what, like if you've done the three, from Poison Spider, on out, then it's gold. Sorry, Gary, remind me. It's Poison Spider, Gold Bar Rim, and
no, it's Poison Spider, Golden Spike, Cross Connect to Gold Bar is the classic.
Right.
Three.
And so, but if you've done that and you've not added on Where Eagles Dare, you're missing what is probably the most beautiful area of Moab. You got these massive domes to climb. I mean, they're some big domes to go climb up. But when you get to the top, I don't know that there's a better view in Moab, Gary. Like, and the big domes to get up. I mean, it's my favorite part of Moab. I mean, there's a lot of beauty in Moab, and there's probably going to be a lot of people that want to come and fight me over this. And I say, bring it. But
it's pretty good, that's for sure.
But Where Eagles Dare is spectacular.
So how do you guys manage all these wheeling trips and a life, and like not like a life because it obviously is a life? Are you guys working full time? How do you support your hobby?
We both used to work full time. now we're retired. Although Gary, his job is kind of like the mafia a little bit. It's pulled him back in.
Okay.
Yeah, I retired and then last year, but it's a startup, and I thought I had them all lined up fine, but I have to go back and I got to finish a couple things so we can exit it and I can get the rest of my money.
How do your
for my habits?
Or how did your day jobs tie into off-roading? Like I started my young life as a mechanic, and then I was in the fire department. It's kind of all hands-on stuff, and now I'm a building inspector, so it's more hands-on, more blue-collar stuff. I like working with my hands. What did you guys do before you retired, and how did that tie into your wheeling hobby, experience, habit? I guess it's a habit more than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go first. Yeah, no, that's true. I would. So we're both in software, or we're in software, and how software ties into Jeeping is that it gives me a lot of time in front of the computer where I can do a bunch of web wheeling
Okay.
and shopping for Jeep parts.
No, I think we call ourselves mechan hacks because
That's a good
we're
one.
not really qualified mechanics. But the Jeep world, we learned fairly fast that things break and you got to deal with it on the trail. I mean, you can't, well, unless you call the guy down there in a hurricane, you can't have anybody come and help you. Like you're on your own, right? And so we learned like, hey man, we got to learn how to deal with these Jeeps because we had Northridge 4x4 do our first build for us each, right? Because we know those guys really well. And you can't just go out there all the time. It costs way too much money to fix things. And then when you're on the trail, you got to deal with it. So, we kind of learned, we started helping people do installs. We started working on our own rigs, maybe not building engines and stuff, but we know how to fix most things. And then Gary's a pretty good welder. I'm a pretty hack welder, but we've got onboard welders that we bring with us because we've had to use them more for other people than for ourselves over the years. But we just sort of learned, the school of hard knocks, and people have helped us in mechanics, and we know how to read manuals and torque specs.
Well, yeah.
I actually found it very it's like it's therapeutic. Right, you get sick and tired of being in front of screens all the time, and this is like actually doing real things with your hands.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, I like to think of it. I mean, like, and Jeeping was kind of an exact opposite of software, right? I mean, excuse me, you get to work. You're working more with your hands, and probably the biggest satisfaction out of building Jeeps is really about the return. Right. I mean, like when you're working on software and the big projects that I worked on, because I worked at Microsoft, I worked at Amazon. So, I mean, like we worked on, really big, high impact projects that, well, I worked on Windows. I mean, so there's 1 billion people that use software that I was in charge of. The thing about it is, you're working on software and you're working on the same thing for 6-12 months before you actually see it working. And it's a long lead time for things to actually come to fruition. Well, when you're working on a Jeep, you're in your garage, you see the results, that day or maybe that weekend. And you put in a lot of time, and it just exercises a different part of your brain. I mean, in working on software, you have a mindset about how to go about solving problems. And then, some of those, like troubleshooting skills, come in handy when you're doing mechanic type stuff. But it exercises a really different part of your brain about how to get a solution, right, and how to use your hands to do it. So I think that was the draw for me, right? I mean, like across my whole career, I spent 30 years in software, and it let me use a different part of my brain and develop a skill that was different from my software skill.
Yeah.
So I think that was the draw for me. It was different. It wasn't something that I leveraged, into it.
Well, the nice thing about Jeeps is we are the anti-Jeep Club. We have Jeeps, but we hate Jeeps. But the nice thing about Jeeps is that they are so shit simple. Yeah. There's not a lot to them. Anybody with a 120-piece mechanics tool set can pretty much build the entire thing. So it is that nice separation of like easy Lego projects, but it's hands-on, and it's a completely different aspect of problem solving other than like IT stuff.
That's the different mentality between the three of you that don't do it every day and me. I could throw a wrench through a windshield at any given second working on a Jeep. Mostly due to the fact that there is a lot of DIY in the Jeep world, and like I always encourage people for the same reasons you guys talked about. Like if you're on a trail, something goes wrong, you should at least know your rig well enough to be able to patch it back together, limp it home, whatever it is. So I don't ever tell people not to work on their stuff, but I also tell people educate yourself with what you have and learn it. Because like we get it all the time where someone comes in and is like, oh, my Jeep won't start. And it's like, oh, well, let's go check the battery. And you open the hood, and it's just piles and piles of wire, 18 things connected to one terminal, and you're just like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be allowed to work on your own rig anymore.
Somebody send you a picture of my Jeep. I'm not sure.
You and about four.
Mine used to look like that, but it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys and about 400,000 other JK owners.
Yeah, but you were Gary T. You were talking about DIY and learning.
Yeah.
And you said you were the mechanic hacks. The school of like YouTube certified is a real thing.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Like it's such a, I think it's an underutilized resource that people don't use, or I guess that's.
No, I think a lot of people use YouTube.
Use it,
I think that's the problem.
But they don't. A lot of people use YouTube, but they don't have the problem solving
Yes.
aspect in their own mind. So they're like, oh, it's just this, and when they can't figure it out, they freak out. But for guys like us, it's a huge resource. I mean, I have no formal training in automotive mechanics. I started building a CJ7. I rebuilt a Camaro. I've just been kind of working on stuff my own life, just my whole life, just going off YouTube and Haynes manuals.
Yeah.
No sit down classes. I didn't even know Votech was a thing when I was in high school.
Oh, I mean, as somebody who is trained, I still go to YouTube. There's a benefit in watching somebody else do the exact thing that I need to do that I haven't done before, that can cut an hour of struggling or an hour of problem solving. You know, there's a lot of great information on YouTube. It's the sorting out the good stuff from the bad stuff, because
just because it's got a good thumbnail doesn't mean it's a great video.
Well, yeah, and like there are times where I'll watch a video and I'm like, how does this have 50,000 views? Like, please tell me there aren't 49,999 people who have actually followed this guy's instructions. But it's there's a lot of good info out there, and it's the Jeeps are, like Tim said, just shit simple. And if you're not getting into like the diagnostic side of it, putting a lift kit on, anybody with a case of beer and some hand tools can do a lift kit. It's just, I can do it quicker because I've done it 100 times. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just, how much headache do you want to do, and how many do you have a spare car to go to the parts store or Home Depot or wherever to go get a new wrench or another bolt because the dog ran away with it, whatever it is.
Well, those 10-millimeter bolts, they just go missing so fast.
Yeah.
Like, you drop it and it just finds hold.
So here it is. You say the spare car for sure. How many times have you guys had to use your spare car? Multiple times to go get things, because you get something, you don't realize you're missing something else.
Is every
Daily.
time is every time an answer?
Yeah, daily. It's so often. I have 2 spare cars.
Yeah.
I have a Jeep, I have a truck, and then I have a car in case my truck is broken.
Yeah, every time is the real answer. Yeah.
And then when my car is also broken, I have my wife's car.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's tell everybody where they can find us. You guys are on Instagram. Is that your primary social experience? Or are you guys also on Facebook? And tell people where they can find you.
So we are. That's where I reached out to you guys. We are primarily Instagram. I try and post 4 or 5 times a week. You can find us at The Dirt Drive. We have a Facebook, which is The Dirt Drive. We have a YouTube, which we do weekly uploads of the podcast too, which is DirtNerds Off-Road.
And
where else?
Yeah, DirtNerds Off-Road on YouTube. DirtNerdsOffroad.com will link all of that, and has our merch. And then DirtNerds Motors is the shop, Instagram and Facebook.
Yep. And I will send you guys all the links.
Yeah.
For your show notes, where can our audience find you guys at?
Yeah, absolutely. We're at NW Jeepcast basically everywhere. YouTube. YouTube, you can do NW Jeepcast, or you can search Northwest Jeepcast. Instagram at NW Jeepcast. Facebook, search for Northwest Jeepcast or NW Jeepcast is fine. Web, nwjeepcast.com. Everywhere we keep going, it'll be NW Jeepcast or Northwest Jeepcast. You can find us. Everywhere podcasts are found, just search for Jeepcast and ours will come up. and you can follow us. Follow the show, right? Listen to our audio, and watch our videos on YouTube, because we're gonna have. We have a good library currently, and we're going to have an amazing video series of our Wheelin' America trip. So, make sure you get up there and subscribe on YouTube, because it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. That's going to be a good series.
Yeah,
I always enjoy like nice homemade documentary series that are pretty in depth, that explain
good adventures.
Trip. Yeah, good honest people going on good adventures. I love it because you guys are all. Like one, you're all the Northwest Jeepcast. Like our story is a little bit different because we started as Dirt Nerds Offroad, and then the shop came, which is DirtNerds Motors, and then the podcast came. So there's really three branches. There's the offroad, which does the wheeling, the shop, which does the fixing, and then the podcast, which does like the documenting. It's really confusing. We should really condense it into one. But it already exists. So
well, sometimes there's benefits at doing it like what you did, right? Because now each branch has its own brand, so you can really tailor the content for each of those. But yeah, and then it sounds like your website does do a pretty good job of cross-linking, between the different properties. So I mean, there's pros and cons, but it's just a different way. Like I think there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and I don't think there's any problem with how you've done it. We're glad that we got to get connected, and good luck in continuing your episodes. You're a year in, and that's exciting. Back when we were a year in, and I don't think we had any idea that it would just keep going like it has. But the biggest advice I give to people is just keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like just keep doing your episodes, commit to the week, and really, don't give up on it. I mean, the times that, we've taken vacations, whether it's, apart, which is most of the time, or together because of a wheeling trip, we make sure to just have an episode, ready to go. We'll record, 2 or 3 episodes in a day in order to have some episodes get released, while we're unable to. I think, oh man, we may have missed one episode during the Hammers week, because we did intend to get one.
We got overwhelmed this week.
It was way overwhelming, and so we didn't be able to get an episode while we were there, which we had planned to. But by and large, we haven't missed a week. Or sometimes we double up on them. I'm sure we average more than one a week. So that's my biggest.
We average more than 2 a week.
damn.
Oh well, now we do. Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking about just the overall all 6. So now we're doing. Yeah, now we do 2 a week. And yeah, so it's a ton of fun. The best part that we love about it is just the interacting with the audience. We get tons of emails and social interactions. We love our listeners, and it's almost a little bit like what you were talking about, Tom, with with your customers, right? You do right by your customers, they'll come back, and our listeners are our customers, even though it's a free podcast.
Yeah.
So.
No, I get it.
But a ton of fun. We wish you guys the best.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Look forward to see you guys on the lake bed.
All right, Tim, Tom, you guys take it easy.
Yeah, man.
Have a good one, Gary. And
Bye.
Gary.
Yep. Bye.
Are you enjoying this podcast? Do you want more ridiculousness from the Dirt Nerds? Check out DirtNerdsOffroad.com. It'll link to all of our social media, as well as our YouTube page, and you can pick up some sweet merch to help support the podcast and other adventures.